Hello, everybody. Carlos Toro here of FightfulBoxing.com, Fightful.com. March is just around the corner over here on the East Coast in the United States. We are about 7 hours away from the month of February 2019 being over. So now's about as good a time as any to look ahead of what's going to be taking place in boxing for the month of March 2019. Fightful's got you covered with all the big fights being taking place all over the world in boxing on multiple platforms. Just a quick look at all these fights. Massive month of fights. I can't remember a month where this many fights took place, but let's break down some of the key fights that are taking place in the month of March 2019. Tomorrow, there's actually going to be two boxing cards, one on YouTube on IFL TV, featuring Akeem Brown versus Bilal Rehman for the IBF European Junior Welterweight title. Meanwhile, in Florida, for those of you who have Telemundo, you get yourself a nice card headlined by Ricardo Espinosa versus Ricardo Nunez. And then on Saturday, the first Saturday of March 2019, two big cards, one on Showtime, Brian Castaño versus Erislan de Lara for the WBA regular junior middleweight title, Luis Ortiz versus Christian Hammer, and then Brian de Gracia versus Eduardo Ramirez for the WBA gold featherweight title. Also taking place on March 2nd is a big DAZN card, not exactly one of the major matchroom boxing cards of the year, but in terms of B shows, this is a very solid one. Jordan Gillett versus Emmanuel Dominguez for the WBA International Featherweight title. You also got Anthony Sims Jr. in action. Lots of good fights on this card, lots to watch out for. Then DAZN got another card on March 8th. In Italy, Danielle Scardina versus Henry Kekalanian for the IBF International Super Middleweight title. Apologies if I butchered the name right there. And then on ESPN Plus in London, England, Liam Williams versus Joe Mullender for the British middleweight title. You also got highly touted contenders and prospects, Daniel Dubois and Anthony Yard in action. Good stuff there. And then moving on to March 9, where it's really busy. Two cards taking place roughly around the same time. One in Carson, California. Prelim card on FS1 for Carson, California. It's Juan Carlos Payano versus Damian Vasquez. And 2016 Olympian boxer Amanta Staniones versus Sammy Figueroa. And then in the main event taking place on BC welterweight world champion Sean Porter versus Yordanis Ugas. It'll be Porter's first defense of the WBC title since winning it last September when he defeated Danny Garcia. That's going to be on Fox. And then at the same time, DAZN's got a card featuring Dimitri Bivol taking on Joe Smith Jr. for the WBA light heavyweight title. And then you got Maurice Hooker versus Michael Lepierre for the WBO junior welterweight title. You also got a light heavyweight matchup between Callum Johnson and Shawnee Monaghan. Lots of good fights right there. And then on March 15, another DAZN card. DAZN's really piling on the big fight early in March. Tevin Farmer versus John O'Carroll for the IBF Super Featherweight title. Tevin Farmer's homecoming fight in Philadelphia. You also got on the undercard Gabriel Rosado versus Maciej Sulecki, Hank Lundy versus Avery Sparrow, and last but not least, a very attractive fight at lightweight. Katie Taylor versus Rose Volante for the unified IBF, WBA, WBO women's lightweight titles. This is going to be a really good fight. Katie Taylor, one of the premier women's boxers today, seemingly making quick and easy work, I should say, of every top opponent put in front of her. She just got done beating Cindy Serrano in what was originally supposed to be a very competitive fight on paper, turned into a 10-round clinic for Katie Taylor as she dominated Cindy Serrano. And now we are on the road to a potential super fight between Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano at the end of the year. Looking forward to that fight. And then over there on March 16, the big fight of the month, the first or actually second major pay-per-view of the year in the United States Arlington, Texas, Cowboy Stadium, AT&T Stadium, Jerry World, whatever you want to call it. That's going to be the host of Errol Spence Jr. versus Mikey Garcia for the IBF welterweight and WBC diamond titles. Very attractive matchup. Kind of a bizarre matchup, to be honest with you. Errol Spence, the dominant 147-pound champion, and you got Mikey Garcia looking to make history as the next fighter to win a world title in 5 different weight classes, but he is moving up in weight from lightweight, so that's a 12-round increase in Mikey Garcia. So very interesting matchup to see right there. You also got David Benavidez on the undercard as he makes his first fight in the ring since testing positive for the central compound and cocaine. Lost his WBC super middleweight title, taking on Julian Love, but a win over Julian Love would put him right back on track towards a potential showdown against new champion Anthony Durrell for much later in the year. Fox Sports 1 also has got a prelim card. So far, one fight, if I recall correctly, being announced for the FS1 card taking place right before the pay-per-view. Also at AT&T Stadium, Charles Martin versus Gregory Corbin in a heavyweight matchup. Charles Martin looking to get back into contention. He is the former IBF heavyweight champion. And then you got in Japan, also on that day, Kosei Tanaka versus Ryoichi Taguchi. For those of you who are not aware of Kosei Tanaka and Ryoichi Taguchi, these two are excellent premier Japanese fighters fighting for the WBO flyweight title. If you don't know Kosei Tanaka, I highly recommend after this video, go on the internet, whether YouTube or wherever you can find this fight, Kosei Tanaka versus Sho Kimura for the WBO flyweight title. I rated this fight as the best fight of 2018 in the Fightful Boxing Awards for 2018, and I stand by it to this day. One of the greatest flyweight title fights in history. One of my favorite fights of all time, and he's going to taking on Ryoichi Taguchi, former light flyweight champion, moving up in weight. That's going to be an extremely competitive fight. Very, very attractive fight. This has Fight of the Year contender written all over it. Then the following day, March 17, Michael Conlan versus Ruben Garcia Hernandez at Madison Square Garden on ESPN Plus. Michael Conlan, the Irish Olympic boxer who is really making waves in the division, 126 pounds, as an up-and-coming star. ESPN and Top Rank are certainly making a real push for Michael Conlan to be this big, big future superstar for the network. And then later on in the week, you got a couple of decent fights on ESPN and ESPN Plus. You got Kubrat Pulev versus Bogdan Dinu main eventing an ESPN card from Costa Mesa in California. You also got Jesse Magdaleno moving up in weight, former super bantamweight champion, taking on Rico Ramos in the co-main event. Earlier in the day, on March 23rd, you also get an ESPN Plus card from Leicester, England, Sam Bowen versus Ryan Wheeler for the British super featherweight title. And then on the Zone, that same day, you got a solid Matchroom boxing card taking place in London. Charlie Edwards versus Angel Moreno for the WBC flyweight title. Joshua Buatsi versus Liam Conroy for the British light heavyweight title. For the British and Commonwealth cruiserweight titles. And Lewis Ritson versus Andy Townend for the British lightweight title. Very, very solid card right there. This could be one of the more underrated events in boxing for the first half of 2019. March 24th, you got an FS1 card headlined by Lamont Peterson and Sergey Lipinets, both men trying to make a case for a potential shot at a 147-pound world title. Lipinets, the former IBF junior welterweight champion, taking on Lamont Peterson, who previously challenged for the IBF welterweight title held by Errol Spence Jr. last year. Also got on the undercard, Anthony Peterson taking on Argenis Mendez. Then on March 30, this might be the busiest day in boxing of the year so far. A total of 5 cards. Well, technically 4 if you count the ESPN Plus card leading into the ESPN card. Regardless, solid fight. Actually, no, it is 5 cards, or even if you include the ESPN Plus card. So let's run this down in order. Alexander Vostok versus Dodo Ngumbu for the WBC light heavyweight title. That's going to headline a top rank on ESPN card from Philadelphia. And then you got Mean Machine Kavaliauskas taking on Ray Robinson. Kavaliauskas is the #1 rated welterweight by the WBO. Could be next in line for the WBO welterweight title currently being held by Terrence Crawford. On the undercard, which is going to be on ESPN Plus, you got a welterweight title eliminator for the IBF belt. Kudratillo Abdukakorov versus Keita Obara. Two under the radar fighters who are looking to try to make a case for an eventual shot at the winner of Mikey Garcia versus Errol Spence Jr. down the line. And then you got on the zone, two separate DAZN cards, one taking place in Liverpool, England, and the other in Indio, California. You got on the Liverpool card, Liam Smith versus Sam Eggington, Anthony Fowler versus Scott Fitzgerald, Joe Hughes versus Robbie Davis Jr. for the European Junior welterweight title, David Price versus Cash Ali, and Philip Bowes versus Tom Farrell for the Commonwealth Junior welterweight title. In the boxing card taking place in Indio, California on the zone, you got Ryan Garcia taking on Jose Wonderboy Lopez in a lightweight main event. And in the co-main event, Angel Tito Acosta will be defending his WBO light flyweight title against Ganigan Lopez. And elsewhere, you got in Europe, German Lejarraga versus David Avanesian for the European welterweight title, headlining a card in Bilbao, Spain. For those who don't know Kerman Lejarraga, he's a very, very good up-and-coming welterweight. Hasn't made a lot of splashes over here in the West, but he is a fighter to watch out for. Could be a potential world title challenger by the end of the year or in 2020. He is that good, and he's making a fast climb in the rankings. David Avanesian is a solid name. Lejarraga, I expect him to be Avanesian as he marches down towards a potential title opportunity. And then in Tweeds Head, Australia, Jason Maloney, the former IBF bantamweight title challenger, will be taking on Chris Paulino for the WBA Oceania bantamweight title, if I recall correctly. Jason Maloney had a very competitive fight against Emmanuel Rodriguez in the World Boxing Super Series. I recently spoke to Jason Maloney, and I will have an article up on that talk on Fightful.com in the near future. Maloney told me that he still wants another shot at a world title, hopes to either get either the WBA interim champion at 118 pounds or the interim WBC champion, or even the winner of the World Boxing Super Series, which is in its final four between Naoya Inoue, Emmanuel Rodriguez, Nonito Donaire, and Zolani Tate. So either of those four guys taking on Jason Maloney would be a very solid fight. So that about wraps it up. A very, very, very busy month in boxing. March 2019 promises to be a spectacular month in boxing. Errol Spence versus Mikey Garcia on pay-per-view. That's going to be the big fight of this month. But there doesn't mean that there's other big fights taking place in a month. Head on over to Fightful.com and FightfulBoxing.com for all the latest news, exclusive big news analysis and results. Doing lots of stuff here on the Fightful MMA and Boxing YouTube channel. Hopefully get more content out there, more great content from the MMA and boxing side. So subscribe to our new Fightful MMA and Boxing YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up. Let me know what you think of this month's boxing fights. Who do you have winning between Mikey Garcia and Errol Spence Jr.? What about all the other big fights taking place this month? Thumbs up this video, subscribe to our new Fightful MMA and Boxing YouTube channel. Head on over to Fightful.com for all the latest news regarding pro wrestling, MMA, and boxing. Carlos Toro of Fightful.com and FightfulBoxing.com signing out.